Hello, and welcome to UXDX Online. Welcome to the latest installment in our UXDX Online series. I hope you're as excited as I am for the two talks that we have this evening. But before we jump into the talks, I want to give a very quick introduction to UXDX and why we host these sessions. So at UXDX, our mission is to help companies shift from building software using waterfall or water scrum fall processes to autonomous empowered product teams. And the reason why that's our mission is because we believe it's a more effective, efficient, and sustainable way of working in a high change environment. So if you're just running one or two projects a year, it makes sense to use waterfall. Build a team, tear it down, move it somewhere else. But if you're like a lot of the companies I've worked at where there's literally hundreds of projects going on at any given time, it makes sense to have people who really understand the customer problem in one part of your product and that they can iterate and keep working to find a better solution that works for the customer and the business. Now, that's really easy to say, oh, we'll just switch from waterfall to product teams, but it's really hard to do in practice. And that's where these talks come in. So each talk is not going to cover the entire breadth of changing your ways of working, because that would be far too much to cover. But they're going to dig deep into a particular element of the process and share how they're changing and ways of working and things that they're doing to improve and make their kind of part of the process better. Now, hopefully when you're listening, you come up with some questions that you're kind of thinking, how could I apply that in my context? And the speakers would love to hear your questions. So please do feel free to ask them, whether it's in the chat on the side at uxdx.com or whether you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or whichever platform you're watching this on. And we'll collate those questions and we'll put them to the speakers. Now, sometimes we can't get through everything, and that's where the UXDX community Slack group comes in. So any questions we don't have time to get through, we'll put those into the Slack group and we'll invite the speakers to come and answer the questions there. But that's enough about me and UXDX. You're not here to listen to me. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker for the evening. So William Gao, who is a member of the Apache Software Foundation, but also the founder and CTO of WhaleOps, will be talking about open source projects in the modern data stack. Now, one of the reasons I just want to reiterate what UXDX is about, we're about product, UX design, and dev. And the reason for that is we believe it really takes a full team to build an amazing product. And that's where we're hoping that kind of getting you to understand also the dev side of things as well as the design and product will help you understand how each works together and build better products. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome William to the stage. Hi, William.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining our session. And today I want to share some experience on open source projects in modern data stacks. First of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm William, and I am an Apache Software Foundation member. And, Apache Software Foundation member, that means there's a lot of Apache software open source projects like Hadoop, Spark, and other things. And I used to work at IBM, Teradata, CSCC, and also I used to work at a CTO of analysis and a senior big data director of Lenovo. And today I want to share some experience on how to build your big data platform using some new new open source projects. There's many requirements on big data, especially now we have some new concept. We call it data community. That means not only the engineer, but a lot of product manager, UX designer, or your sales analyst, or your boss will use the data directly, not only the engineers. And then there will be many new open source projects in the world. And there's also a new concept we call it modern data stacks. What is modern data stacks? That means there will be a set of tools that can handle the big data analysis. it's not only one tool. In old days, perhaps we have, for example, we have a Microsoft SQL Server or Teradata or something like that. But in nowadays, we will have many different open source projects or tools to handle the whole big data issues. So I'd like to introduce some of the open source projects. For example, now we will have many different data sources. There is some open source project to collect the data from different data sources. For example, you can collect the data from Google Analytics, or you can collect the data from your database, or from an Excel file, or some other files. Thus, you can integrate all data into your data warehouse to do some data analysis. So there's many open source data integration projects such as Arabyte, which is from the American, and SeaTunnel is from Apache Software Foundation, and Jitsu is from Japan, and the DataX is from China, and the RudderStack is from also from American. So this is open source data integration tools, and also we have many data warehousing. I know that Snowflake is very popular now, but we are talking about open source data warehouse. So I think TrinoDB is very popular in American, and the ClickHouse is very popular in Russian and Europe, and Peanut is very popular in American, and Iceberg is also a project popular in American and in China, and the Materialize, I think, is very popular in Europe. And the Doris, Starox, and SelectDB, Kitten, I think they are very popular in China. And also we have some open source projects to do the transformation. Data transformation means you can transform the data from one column to many other column, or you want to calculate it to do some calculation in big data. So there's some open source projects like Flink. I think is Apache open source projects, but I think is born in Europe, and now it's very popular in China. And also DBT is very popular in the US, and the BIM, Apache BIM, now is very popular in US because it's a Google-based open source projects. And the Spark, and I think is almost very popular all over the world. And the Smanza, I think, is popular in Europe. And also we have some open source projects in orchestration area. Big data orchestration, that means it can orchestrate many workflows, because you will have many big data jobs. For example, perhaps you have a 1,000 SQL jobs. So you have to arrange them. The task one, the task A is the first to run, and then you ran task B, then you have to run task C. How to orchestrate them together? There's orchestration tools. And I think in the world is a very popular. Airflow is very popular all over the world. But now we had another orchestration tools called DolphinScheduler. I think it's easy for non engineering based users to use big data orchestrations, because it's drag and drop to create some workflows. And Flight is very popular in AI and machine learning workflow orchestration tools. And Dexter and Perfect is SaaS, very popular in American. And also there's many BI and analysis tools. It's open source. Then you can use them to analyze your big data, such as a superset, eChart, AntV, and QueryBook, or Redash, or Metabase, or Ladash is this a very popular open source project in all over the world. And also, I know that ChatGPT is very hot these days, and actually, ChatGPT is the model to train the ChatGPT is based on Ray. It's also open source projects, and also we have a PyTorch and Jupyter and TensorFlow and MindStore and Paddle and OpenMLDB. These are some open source AI projects. So you can see there's many open source modern data stack tools, and you can choose one if you want. And today I want to introduce you some basic idea of how to use these kind of modern data stack tools to build your own data analysis. Now we have we call the ETLT architecture. You know, we have perhaps you have many data, but your data is stored, for example, in the SAS or in your spreadsheet or in your cloud database. So you have to extract the data from different data sources, and then you will do a we call a transform that we can let this kind of data to load into your data warehouse. And this process we call the ETL, and extract the load, transform and the load. And then when you ETL the data source into your data warehouse, you can do a lot of business transformation in your data warehouse, in your Snowflake or in your TrinoDB or in your Hadoop. And then perhaps some business analyst or data application developer, or if you can write a SQL, even a product manager can write a SQL in Snowflake or TrinoDB to do your data analysis. And also some data scientists can use the AI tools to do this, to do more advanced analysis algorithms. And for a small company, you can use this big data architect to build a very easily used big data application. Now in nowadays we have two different type of data. One we call it real-time data, and the other we call it batch data. And real-time data, that means you have to collect the data real time, and you have to compute the data real time, and you have to analyze the data real time. Now we have SeaTunnel. It's a Apache open source projects, and it's free, and you can collect the data no matter in your IoT devices or your database or in your spreadsheet or in your log or in your SAP or ERP or SAM software. You can collect the data real time, and then you can load them into the Kafka. Kafka is we call it's middleware that can store the message in real time, or you can just load the data into your real time data warehouse. For example, you can load the data into the ClickHouse or into the AWS Redshift, or you can load the data to other real-time data warehouse. And also you can send it into your alert system. That means you can send it to the API. You can alert some IoT devices is wrong or not. You can monitor the whole real-time data. And the other way we call it batch time data, and you can also use the SeaTunnel to load the data from your spreadsheet or from your Google Doc or from your Salesforce or some other SaaS. Or you can extract the data from Oracle, from MySQL or SQL Server or some database, and it's very easy to use. That means you needn't to be an engineer or a programmer. You can just use a very easy script to do this kind of things, and then you can load the data into your data warehouse or your data lake or your OLAP engine. And also, if you want to do some data analysis, to write some SQL to handle the whole orchestration, the whole workflow orchestration, you can use the Apache DolphinScheduler. And you can just drag and drop to create the ETL jobs or your Hadoop jobs or your Flink jobs. And also you can manage, we call it ML ops, machine learning ops, and you can manage your AI training process by DolphinScheduler. So it's something like a traffic light in big data platform. And then you can also use the CeaTunnel to load the data from your data warehouse back to your SaaS or back to your database. So it's simply a big data architecture for small or medium enterprise. And then I want to introduce two of the projects. One is we call it Apache CeaTunnel, and it's in Apache Incubator. And because we have so many data sources, so that's why we have to use Apache CeaTunnel. There's so many data sources, Google Doc and other database. And sometimes you have to use we call real-time and batch data together. And you have to use to monitor the whole extract the data process. So CeaTunnel is very easy to use projects that you can extract the data from different data sources, and then you can load them into different data target, and the performance is very good. And now it has more than 100 connectors to help you to synchronize the data to anywhere. So you can see there's many like cloud connectors or database connectors or SaaS connectors, and it is free because it's open source projects. And so I think it's very useful open source project to integrate your data from different database or from different cloud or from different SaaS into your database or or to your data warehouse. And also, I think it's some very good features. For example, it's very easy to deploy and use. You needn't to deploy Hadoop or Flink or Spark because it is not depends on Hadoop environment. And I think now you can deploy only one server that can synchronize many records in 1 second. So I think it's easy to use and easy to deploy, and the performance is very good. And it's use a SQLite code. I think everyone can use the CeaTunnel to synchronize data, and it's many other features. So you can see here is the example for CeaTunnel. So you just write a script like this. So it's just like a SQL select and replace and something like that. And you have to write the connector like the type script, and then you can write a sync in this code some example. So I think it's a very easy for you for somebody who is not an engineer to synchronize data from different data sources. And also I think it's many other features. And also there are it's very popular. I think it's very popular in China, and it has many users in China and also in Singapore, and I think in India. So I think this is a very good data integration projects. And also I want to introduce another project called Apache DolphinScheduler. I think it's more easy to use for some other people to use big data platform. Sometimes because we often meet some challenge in our big data platform, bad performance, low latency, and also sometimes we have to manage the real-time job and batch job together, and also sometimes we are lack of access and resource control, and we have inefficient backfill data process, and moreover, I think it's very hard for non no no for people who has no engineer background to use orchestration tools, because Python, for example, Azkaban or Airflow, you have to use the Python to design the whole process, and Dolphin Scheduler is designed for you just drag and drop to create your workflow, and also you can use Python to generate your workflow, and now it's active user. I think is more than 3,000 users all over the world, and the start of this Apache project is more than 10,000. So I think a very strong open source projects, and the interface is very easy. You just can drag and drop to create a SQL or Hadoop job. Then you can just drag and drop to create the whole big data analysis process. So, and it's very powerful because we call it it's multi-master and multi-worker. That means it's a scalable and it's very stable. So you can use Dolphin Scheduler to manage a very big amount of workflows in one cluster. You need to create many small clusters to manage the workflows. And also, I think there will be some new features. For example, in the old version, you can just drag and drop. So what we call the what you see, then what you get to create your big data workflow. And it's a high. It has a high reliability, and it has a rich workflow functions, and also it's a cloud native, and the accessibility is very good. And now the new version, we support machine learning orchestration, support real-time task, and support Python and YAML workflow to generate the workflow, and also support Kubernetes. So I think it's some technical features. But for people who are not very familiar with Genea, I think the what you see, then what you get to create a big data workflow is very easy to use. And there's a comparison between different open source projects. I don't want to dive into the details, but I think three projects, they have their own pros and cons. But if you are a beginner of big data users, or you are not engineer background user, I think a Dolphin Scheduler is very easy for you to use to orchestrate the whole things. Now it has many users. Sometime, for example, Cisco, IBM, and also many users in China or in India. So I think if you are interested in this projects, you can use for your enterprise. Now I think there's also a lot of use case in China or in Singapore, in India. I think we can mention one for Shane and Cisco, because Dolphin Scheduler can deploy on the cloud, and it can handle the very a big amount of workflow, and Also, it very easy to use. Then you can yourself or your team can use the DolphinScheduler, not only the engineer to use the DolphinScheduler. So there is some resource for DolphinScheduler. So if you are interested, so you can go to the Apache website, and also you can see something in Medium or Twitter, something like that. So I just go through the whole presentation of myself. So if you are interested in, about big data, or you're interested in modern data stack, you can contact me in LinkedIn, or you can email in by this email, and also you can add my Twitters. So I think that's all for my presentation, and I think the time is just okay for everyone. So do you have some questions about the modern data stack open source projects?
Perfect. Thank you very much, William. Really enjoyed that as kind of a deep dive into the technical side that some people don't often see. That it's people
Yeah.
all think it's all just at the front end, but you really need to kind of move that data around at the back end. One thing I had a question on, and it's kind of related to security, which is coming up a lot more these days. And I've seen some CTOs are starting to get a little bit nervous of open source, because I don't know if you've heard the research from Socket Security, where, and this is more about the kind of maybe the JavaScript UI front end, but every module that you import, you're implicitly trusting 300 people. And then a moderately sized one can have thousands of people, and all it takes is kind of one bad actor to introduce a security hole. So what are you doing to make sure that on every upgrade, or like, and I know it's a free piece of software, so how do you manage that kind of concern that people might have?
Yeah. So that's what Apache Software Foundation doing, because we have a whole process. For example, for Apache software open source projects, we have a we call it PMC, project committee of the PMC, project management committee. So not only one person or one company to control this open source projects. For example, Hadoop, there will be more than 3 or 4 companies, and many, I think it's more than 30 or 40 PMC members to control Hadoop progress. So when with the newest version released, the security of the Apache Foundation, security team of the Apache Foundation will test the whole things. Sometimes there will be some leak, some issues. They did not test it because every software have the bugs or have the issues. But we have a whole process to assure that open source projects in Apache Software Foundation is more secure than you just download open source projects from nowhere. So that is what Apache Software Foundation doing.
Excellent. No, that sounds really good, because it for a while just the goodwill and good nature of people worked, but unfortunately now the bad actors are coming in a bit more enforced, particularly with the front end JavaScript kind of packages.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff Socket are giving some really entertaining examples of.
Yeah, because his open source project is not Apache Software Foundation, and so we cannot help him. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, William.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your listening.
Okay. So up next, I'd like to introduce our next speaker for the evening. So Ruben de Boer, who is the lead conversion manager at Online Dialogue, will be talking about change management to enable company-wide experimentation. So welcome, Ruben.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's the second time I get to present for the UXDX community. And the first time was 4 years ago in Amsterdam on a live event. So very happy to be back and see that this amazing community is still thriving, because I'm absolutely enthusiastic about the mission and the vision of this community. So the title for my talk is Change Management to Enable Company-Wide Experimentation. And when I was preparing the talk and with the community in mind, I realized I could have also called it Change Management to Enable Outcome-Driven Working, or Change Management to Enable Continuous Discovery, or Change Management to enable anything to create the best possible digital products. Uh, Change management, we can use it to motivate colleagues to do something and to help create better products. In this presentation, I'll refer to experimentation and A/B testing because that is what I do and that's what I love. But no, you can apply the theories in this talk for similar goals, including your personal growth. But we'll get to that. Whatever your goal is, when trying to change the culture, mindset, of way of working of your team or your organization, you must understand that a large proportion of your work should be dedicated to change management. But change is hard. Change can be difficult. So, in the next 25 minutes, you'll learn something about change management tactics, and things you should do and should not do to accomplish your goals. But let's first briefly introduce myself. This is basically me on one slide. So, my name is Ruben, and I've been in the business of experimentation and optimization for over 14 years. Today, I'm the lead CRO manager and consultant at Online Dialogue, which is an experimentation-only agency based in the Netherlands. And I'm the owner of the company Conversion Ideas. And with this company, my goal is to help people learn and excel in conversion rate optimization and experimentation for affordable prices with online courses. And I now have over 12,000 students worldwide. I'm also an international keynote speaker. I post a lot on LinkedIn. I appear on regular podcasts, and I love optimization. Not just my clients, not just the business, but also my personal life. For instance, I love sports. I do sports every single day. I also love the city Amsterdam in the Netherlands. That's where I live. And I love Amsterdam for everything it has to offer. But it did not seem very appropriate to show a picture of me with a beer on a festival in Amsterdam. Therefore, for the third picture, I chose a picture from vacation while enjoying nature and hiking with my girlfriend Zoe and my dog Happy. So that's me in a nutshell. So, change management. Let's start with a story. Imagine you want to make a lifestyle change. This summer, you're really going to be in great shape with a great body and, of course, a nice six-pack. Now, it's Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and the alarm clock wakes you up. You decided to set the alarm clock the night before to get out of bed early on a Sunday morning and go for a run before having breakfast with your family. And now that alarm clock rings, something interesting happens. One part of you knows you have to get up and take that run to get in shape. This is the same part of you that set the alarm clock the night before. But as you know, there's another part of you. It wakes up in the darkness of the early morning in the weekend, still feeling sleepy, with a warm blanket over your body, your head resting on a comfortable pillow, and this part of you wants absolutely nothing to do with waking up. All it wants to do is to turn off that alarm clock, turn around, and get some more sleep. And so the struggle begins. Now, you might recognize the situation. Maybe this is a struggle you experience every single day when your alarm clock goes off when you have to go to work. Or you might recognize this from a similar goal. For instance, when you're trying to lose weight, save more money, or drink less alcohol. So, what is happening here? Well, most of us, or some of us, will know these two parts of us as System 1 and System 2, as described in the book Thinking Fast and Slow. So let's check it out. System 2 is a metaphor for our conscious, rational brain. This part of our brain can reason. It can think in the past, present, and future. It knows what is good for us, and it knows we have to make an investment now for a benefit in the future. This part of the brain knows we have to get up for that run so that later this year, this summer, we are in great shape. This is also the part of our brain, this is part of us, that set the alarm clock the night before. So for behavioral change to succeed, System 2 has to know how to change. It has to be smart enough. And to make System 2 smart enough for change, to have a different way of working, we must educate our colleagues and show them the importance of experimentation and validation and make them understand it. So you could show proof that experimentation works. And you can begin, when you start an organization, you can begin with low-hanging fruit and get some quick winners and show the proof that it works. You can also give presentations and workshops about whatever goal you're trying to achieve. Continuous discovery, experimentation, everything. You can share the results and insights from experiments. And you can test the ideas of your colleagues. And especially contradicting ideas I find most interesting. Because if ideas are worth a discussion in the team, and especially with higher management, it is definitely worth testing. And whatever the outcome of the experiment, some people will be surprised, and everyone will understand the importance of experimentation. Now, unfortunately, just making System 2 more intelligent does not result in lasting change. Otherwise, it would be easy. And I would not be here giving you this presentation. And this is obvious, right? We know this. We cannot read a book and change our entire life or change our way of thinking or way of working. But even though it's obvious, I see it still happen a lot in organizations, possibly with devastating results. So this is what happens. You have a specialist, let's say a CRO experimentation specialist. And this specialist is very enthusiastic about his way of working. And he's trying to convince his colleagues to work the same way. But by doing so, he's a bit demanding. He slightly forces his way of working onto his colleagues and onto his manager. And this is accompanied by convincing others using mere facts. And facts only target System 2. So the specialist explains how with this new way of working, we get better results for our organization and our customers. And we have to work outcome driven, and our competitors do it, and Booking and Facebook do it. But the colleagues, they're not so enthusiastic. The colleagues think this specialist is pushy and demanding and not showing any interest in their way of working. So as a result, they start ignoring or even resisting the desired behavior. They start resisting experimentation. Now, this again makes a specialist think that the colleagues are stubborn, that they don't see the benefits, and that they do not want to change. And this makes him more demanding and pushy. And before he knows it, he finds himself with his colleagues in a very negative cycle, in a very negative circle. And it's really hard to break this. So to change behavior and way of working, we need a lot more than educating System 2. So let's check out System 1. System 1 is a metaphor for our subconscious brain, our primal brain. This is the strongest part of our brain. These are our reflexes and instincts. This part of the brain, it cannot reason. It cannot think in the past, present, and future. And a rule of thumb is that 95% of our decisions are made by System 1. So this is the part of us that loves staying in bed on the Sunday morning. It doesn't care at all about a well-trained body somewhere in the future. All it cares about is the here and now. So for behavioral change to succeed, System 1 needs to be motivated. So make experimentation as easy and as small as possible. System 1 does not like big changes. So don't bother your colleagues with statistics, crafting correct hypotheses, advanced interview techniques, etc., etc. It's something we're very passionate about, but her colleagues see this as something difficult and are not so enthusiastic about such things. You also want to give sufficient autonomy to your colleagues and your team. System 1 wants to stay in control. And wants to make experimentation accessible and want to make it easy for colleagues to hand in their test ideas. System 1 does not like to put in the extra effort. And this experimentation, of course, again, the same accounts for other desired behaviors. If you want more discovery by the team, make it easy and start small. Well, sorry. Unfortunately, motivating System 1 is difficult. Change often fails because System 1 is not motivated enough and not working together with System 2. So to create lasting change, System 1 should be smart enough. We should educate. Sorry, System 2. We should educate System 2. System 1 should be motivated and work for us. And this one is especially important. System 1 should work for us because it's the strongest part of our brain. And System 1 and System 2 should work together. This creates lasting change. And to do so, we can tweak the environment. First up is the physical environment. And working in online experimentation, we continuously tweak the physical environment of our website visitors. With A/B tests, smoke tests, or ad testing, we try to change their behavior by tweaking something in their physical environment. So for successful behavioral change, we can also tweak the physical environment. Let's check out our example once more for the run on a Sunday morning. Students in the United States invented this alarm clock and named it Clocky. Clocky, like any alarm clock, when it goes off, it makes a lot of noise. However, as you can see on the picture, Clocky is a clock on wheels. When it goes off, it makes the horrible noise, but also its wheels start spinning, and it rides off your bedside table, racing through your room, and still making that noise. Now this morning, System 2 wants to get out of bed to go for that run. And System 1 now also wants to get out of bed because it wants to stop that horrible noise coming from Clocky. So you get out of bed, and on your hands and knees, you try to catch that alarm clock. And by the time you catch it and turn it off, you're out of bed, awake, and ready to go for that run. So if you want to change the culture and way of working of your team or organization, you must tweak the physical environment, create clockies in the office environment. You can send update emails with insights from your experiments. You can apply gamification like a Which Test 1 competition. You can create accessible data dashboards and perhaps place monitors with data in the office. You can share a form for which colleagues can easily hand in their test ideas. You could also add a big feedback button on your website and digital product targeted to the IP address of your office. You can have a Slack channel to share successes and failures. You could have a fail board so the acceptance of failure become better. Or you can have a fail trophy. And this one's quite nice. I read this one in an article that Amazon has a fail trophy. Whoever breaks the website badly gets the fail trophy for a week. And this person gets to place the trophy on our desk. And this trophy is considered a badge of honor. This means this person did something so bold that it messed up the website. And this person will get praised for it throughout the week and receive high fives, even from higher management. I thought this was an excellent example as a tweak in the physical environment to accept failure and take risks. Well, besides the physical environment, we can, of course, also tweak the social environment. And we're working on websites and digital products. We know this all too well. Ratings, reviews, testimonials, success stories. We find social proof everywhere. And of course, we can use it for cultural change, behavioral change as well. When you think about the Sunday morning, coming up with an example is quite easy, right? You can meet with your best friend at 7:30 a.m. in a nearby park to go for a run together. Now, when your alarm clock rings, System 1 does not want to let that friend down and get out of bed as well. So, for behavioral change in your organization, tweak the social environment, involve your colleagues, create a community of enthusiasts and promoters of experimentation, host brainstorm sessions with colleagues, celebrate success and failure together, and have colleagues watch usability tests together in a room. I always love this one. Usability tests give a lot of valuable insights, but also by getting people together in a room and see someone actually use their product, that's when they start understanding that optimization, validation, experimentation is very important. What is also very important is you. You are probably the most critical, crucial person in the social environment when you want to change the behavior and way of working of your colleagues. As we have seen, you can facilitate or completely block organizational change with your beliefs and behavior. Most of you will be familiar with this book, Influence by Cialdini. In his book, he describes the 6 principles of influence. These are reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, authority, liking, and scarcity. 2 of these apply to you as a person in the social environment. If you want behavioral change to succeed, you have to be a likable authority. So, be passionate but humble. Be approachable. Show interest in others. And never tell people they are wrong. So build trust and never tell them they are wrong. System 1 hates it when someone tells it has done something wrong. So always respect the opinion of your colleagues. And most importantly, help your colleagues achieve their goals with experimentation instead of only trying to achieve yours. 2 more tweaks to go. Almost there. Let's continue with rules and norms. Rules and norms can make certain behavior mandatory. If we check back on our run on a Sunday morning, it would be a bit weird if your partner or government sets the rule that you have to wake up on Sunday at 7 a.m. and go for a run. That would be absurd, unless your partner is very upset with your big belly and sets you that rule to go for that run, but that's out of scope, I guess, for this presentation. But if you think about it, what made you run as a kid at school during physical exercise? It was your teacher, and you complied. And when we think back about the COVID situation, we have shown very different behavior due to governmental regulations. And the same applies for the workplace. Arrive on work at time. Clean up your desk at the end of the day. Come prepared to meetings. Run an A/B experiment for every change on the website, or interview one customer every single week. So norms and especially rules generally come from higher management. Therefore, it's essential to involve them as soon as possible. You need their support when you want to change the way of working of your team. So you can inform them with results, insights, or share business cases with them. You can involve them, you can test their ideas, invite them to a brainstorm session or a usability test. And once you have a higher manager on board, you can craft a plan together to get experimentation higher on the agenda in the organization. If you are a higher manager, you can also set the rule that ties experimentation to your personal assessment. When looking at norms, we already discussed a little bit. Acceptance of failure is a very important norm. Failure should be seen as part of the learning process. When management accepts this, it shows the organization that failure is not something to be scared of. Instead, failure is necessary to achieve goals. And we know failure is important, right? We read about it a lot, we hear about it a lot. I'm telling you now during this presentation, but how do we get there? And the answer is simple. We use this model, right? We already learned about Amazon with the fail trophy. Here's also a nice example for a tweak in the social environment. At Online Dialogue, every last Friday of the month is so-called Fuck Up Friday. During 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. on this Friday, everyone stops with working and shares their biggest fuck up of that month. And the rest of my colleagues, they respond with applause, laughter, and empathy. And together, we learn. We learn from our failures. And this makes it a very safe environment to fail and thus take productive or educated risks. The last week, rewards and incentives. Rewards can make the new behavior stick. It's pairing something we want with something we have to do. And rewards can come from within, from our physical environment, or our social environment. If we look at our example for the Sunday morning for one last time, when we go for a run, our body produces endorphins, and these make you feel great. What also could make you feel great is if you put a check mark on your goal list after the run. And perhaps after the run, when you are in the shower, your partner makes you your favorite healthy breakfast as a reward. And all these rewards can help you go running again next week. So if you want to change the way of working, have the right rewards and incentives in place and make it fun. So tie nice rewards to a Which Test One competition or an idea competition. Celebrate failure and success together with free food and free drinks. Show developers the positive impact they made instead of simply what they delivered. And nominations for external awards can also motivate the team. It shows they're on the right track. For higher management, tie experimentation to salary increase, for instance. And for higher management, ensure you have consistent results. When results contradict, we will not start experimenting more. For instance, when the organization stage you have to experiment, but failure is not desired and tied to your personal assessment, the rewards contradict, and this leads to less experimentation. So as you've seen in this presentation, we already have quite a lot of knowledge about this model. Some of you will know about System 1 and System 2. We tweak the physical environment of our website visitors or our digital product visitors every single day. We know about the influence of social proof, and we know we have to be a likable authority. We also know how to do research, set up a process, and experiment. And we have to do that in this case as well. For instance, occasionally, I get the question by someone of how they can get the board of directors more involved in experimentation. And my answer is always the same. I don't know. I've never met your board of directors. You have to experiment. Do your research and experiment. For some boards, showing business cases works absolutely perfect. For others, involve them. Yet others test their ideas. The same for colleagues, right? Sometimes they like a Which Test One competition. Sometimes they want to be involved in a brainstorm session. Yet others simply want update emails. Dashboarding early in the experimentation maturity works wonders for some companies. For other companies, colleagues look at the data, draw wrong conclusions, and act upon those conclusions. Some colleagues will like beer as a reward, others want wine, and yet others want a cake. There is no one size fits all. There's no 5, 6, or 7 steps to get to an experimentation culture and change the way of working. We have to do research and experiment. We have to do the same as we do for our products. Interview colleagues, survey them, see how you can best help them, and experiment to see what works. So do your research, get many ideas to motivate colleagues through this model, set up a process, experiment, and see what sticks and doesn't stick. So I hope you get started as soon as possible. Sit with your team or experimentation enthusiasts. Brainstorm ideas based on this model, plan and start experimenting. We plan our experiments already. So let's also start planning our change efforts and our personal growth efforts. Because we saw the example for running on a Sunday morning, but we can use this model for our personal growth much more. If you get frustrated with colleagues because they don't adopt your way of working, learn mindfulness and use the same principles. If you want to become a better listener, use this model. If you want to become a better interviewer, use this model. For instance, let's say you want to get better at mindfulness. So system 2, talk to people, read a book, download an app, learn how to apply mindfulness. System 1, make the change small. Don't start with 30 minutes of meditation. Start with 3 minutes a day and just watch your breathing. Physical environment, a meditation calendar on a prominent spot in your house, an app on the first screen of your mobile phone, a big Buddha statue in the middle of your living room, whatever reminds you of meditation. Social tweak, have your partner join you, or if you do that work, have your colleague join you. Reward, when you meditate, you get to make yourself your extra delicious favorite cappuccino. And finally, rules, if you don't meditate in the morning, you have to make breakfast for the whole family. Or if you're not meditating at work, you have to clean the office desks of all your colleagues at the end of the day. So I use this model myself for everything I want to optimize in my life, basically. My work, my sports, food, sleep, mindfulness, my own business, everything. I really believe that change is possible and you can accomplish your goals and dreams. So I hope with this presentation, you get started with change management for your team and your personal growth and devote a lot more time to it. And I also hope that with this knowledge, your Sunday morning now looks like this. Good luck, have fun, and please share your successes and of course your failures with me. I love to hear from you. I share a lot of information about this topic on LinkedIn, so please feel free to connect there. And for now, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day and keep experimenting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ruben. Nice, inspiring personal anecdote at the end.
Yes.
Great. So yeah, if you have any questions for Ruben, please feel free to enter them into the chat, whichever platform you're watching this on. But I want to get started because I was listening there because it felt like you were speaking to me with that cycle of kind of pushing too hard and then getting people's like that. That's something I have been guilty of in the past. But when I was looking at all of your answers, it seemed like you needed to come from a position of authority. You needed the authority to change the environment, to change the incentives, to change. So what happens if you're a person on a team, you don't necessarily have that authority? Now, I know you mentioned board of directors, but what even just to get to your manager or try to get somebody like that involved without coming across as the pushy person in that cycle?
Yeah, no, very good. Of course, you need to have it needs to match the goals of your organization and your team, because otherwise you're gonna do something different than others want. But I like the question. What I tried a lot and have succeeded with is to use this model, make colleagues enthusiastic about experimentation. This creates noise, and then at some point, some higher manager who probably has some interest somewhere about experimentation and outcome-driven working contacts me, or through someone I know who knows that manager, I get to have a meeting with that person. And from there, the ball starts rolling. So it's best, of course, to have a manager that is a fan of outcome-driven working and experimentation. But yeah, you can make people enthusiastic, create noise in the organization, and then sit with higher manager to get it higher on the agenda.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I think that's actually brought us to time. So thank you once again, Ruben.
Very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So that brings us to the end of our session for today. But I hope you did enjoy our online talks. And if it is something that interests you, that kind of concept of working together as a cross-functional team and kind of breaking down the silos so that you can focus on getting work done instead of getting through stage gates and writing documentation. So we host conferences 2 times during the year. Our next one coming up is in May in 4 weeks' time, where we'll have 25 speakers, 500 attendees. There'll be 12 workshops, actually. So if you did enjoy today, then please do come along. It's like today, but at a much larger scale. But otherwise, I will see you at the next UXDX online session, and